So you're thinking of learning to play the piano, but you're not sure where to start. That's okay, because today I'm going to share with you guys the pros and cons of taking lessons versus trying to teach yourself. I'll also share with you guys some additional resources as well as my personal recommendations to help you get started today. All right, let's talk about lessons, because after all, that is where the majority of people do start when they are learning a new instrument. Now, when I was a kid, I started lessons, and 2 years in, I just was not feeling it. I didn't like piano, I was not having a good time, and there was a few reasons why. For the first part, most of the time when you are starting lessons, depending on who you're learning from, if it's a school program you're going for, they're going to have a written curriculum that all the instructors will give to all of the students, or if you're going one-on-one with a private instructor, they'll have their own different curriculums. But essentially what it'll look like is they'll come over, they'll have your sheet music or a bunch of books, they'll put it in front of you, and you start off by learning a bunch of silly songs, I call them, and the sheet music corresponding to the silly songs. So basically, they're trying to give you fundamentals, and it's just, I think, an outdated way for people to learn how to play piano, because I don't want to learn how to play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, as basic as that is. I want to learn cool stuff like Journey, you know what I mean? All that stuff, the stuff I hear, the stuff that people recognize when I play it, because to me, that's what piano's all about, is playing the songs I like and sharing it with the people I also like. So I think it's very important, first off, if you are going the lesson route, find the right instructor. Make sure you know what type of music or what type of piano player you want to be. If you want to learn classical music, make sure you find an instructor and communicate with them. Hey, I want to learn how to play classical music. Is this the right place for me? Can you teach me that? And what's the process look like? So I think that's a good place to start, because that'll lead us to con number 2 of lessons. It's very expensive. Lessons can range from $40 to $60 an hour, even upwards of that, depending on who you're learning from. And that adds up, especially if you're doing lessons every week and you're only getting 1 hour of information a week if you're not doing stuff on your own time. So, it's a slow process and it's expensive and it adds up. And really, lessons never stop. Once you're in them, you're going to be in them, and there's always stuff to learn. I'm 18 years in and I still learn new stuff every day online. So yeah, it never stops. It's a slow process and it could be expensive. So, keep that in mind. If you are going the lesson route, that is going to be kind of the route that it will look like. You're going to be learning silly songs. You're going to be learning how to read sheet music, and you are going to be learning how to correspond the sheet music to the keys on the piano. Now, on the flip side of that, I would say it is nice when you are doing lessons, you will have someone next to you to ask questions to. If you're not understanding something, you won't be completely on your own. You'll have someone to guide you, and especially to correct bad habits. Now, I self-taught myself most of my life, so I have some bad habits and people will point that out to me, and it's tough for me to break them. But, if you are in lessons when you're, starting out, it's easy to flip those bad habits. And so if you go in and you're playing with one finger and you get really good at that, it's going to be hard to transition to using all of your fingers down the road. So you want someone next to you to tell you, hey, you're not necessarily doing that right, but here's what we can do to improve that and correct it. So just to wrap up about lessons, some cons of lessons. It's expensive. It's a slow process. A lot of times the curriculums are outdated and it can get a little bit boring, and it's easy to get discouraged because you're not necessarily learning the stuff you want to learn. Now, some of the pros of lessons, you're going to have someone next to you to guide you. You're going to have some homework that they give you, which is going to be forceful for you to practice, forceful for lack of a better term, to practice during the week so that you show up to the next lesson prepared. So it does create some sense of urgency for you. Whereas if you're learning on your own, maybe you're not scheduling in enough time for yourself to learn to actually play the piano, and it's easy to just go off the rails from there. So having lessons scheduled does create that sense of urgency to where you have to practice, you have to learn, you have to excel. Now let's talk about the flip side of it. Self-teaching yourself. What does that look like? Where do you even start? So that's one of the downsides of self-teaching, is you might not know where to start. Now, what I did is I picked a song I wanted to learn, and I said, you know what? I just want to learn how to play this one song. It was Mad World. It's such a good song. I love that song so much. But I heard someone playing and I was like, I don't care about anything else. I just want to learn that one song. I went home, I went on YouTube, and I spent about a month watching this video and trying to just sight read on the piano, match up the notes, and learn how to play that one song. And once I got to that point, it was hard to learn, but once I learned it, I had so much more confidence in myself. I said, I just learned how to play that whole song off one YouTube video. Imagine if I spent, 4 or 5 YouTube videos learning 4 or 5 more songs, I could add those all to my arsenal of music, and people are going to think I'm a real piano player. I was like, this is so cool. And that's exactly what happened. Here we go, fast forward. I learned probably 100 songs off YouTube. I got to the point where I could just hear a song and play it because I was familiar with all the chord progressions. I was familiar with all the scales and all that. Now, if I can go back in time and do it differently in a different order, I would, knowing what I know now. But I didn't at the time. I just wanted to learn how to play a song I liked. And I think a lot of people are like that, where they go into piano because they want to learn how to play a certain style of music, whether it be classical, whether it be pop, whether it be rock, you name it. But I think a lot of people want to do that. And so there are a lot of benefits of self-teaching yourself if you do go that route. And it's cheaper and there's less pressure on yourself. Now, less pressure could be a good or bad thing depending on how you look at it. I know some people don't have the drive to, practice on their own without the urgency of a lesson coming up. But if you love what you're doing and you're, counting on learning a certain song, you're not going to give up. You're not going to stop. If you're like me, you're going to have fun while you do it. And each day you learn more and more, you're going to get better and better. So less pressure could be a pro or a con for self-teaching. But to me, it ended up being a pro because I honestly just didn't like the pressure of having to learn songs I didn't like for the upcoming week. It just felt like it didn't make a lot of sense. Now, again, like I talked about before, one of the downsides of, teaching yourself is you won't have anyone to correct your bad habits. You won't have anyone to keep you accountable, and you won't have anyone to ask questions to by your side. Now, fortunately, we live in an industry where if you do have questions, most of the time they could be answered from something on the internet. There's honestly probably an answer for anything you could think of piano related on the internet. So I don't think that that's a huge kicker when it comes down to it, but it is something to keep in mind if you're the type of person who wants someone by your side as you're learning, and you don't want to just be like, this is too hard, I give up and walk away. That's up to you. Ultimately, I had a couple years of lessons under my belt before I went the self-teaching route, and that could be something that you need, is someone next to you just to guide you, to get you started. So if you need a couple lessons to get into it, by all means, that could be a great way to go. So now we've talked about lessons and we've talked about self-teaching and we talked about pros and cons of each one. And you still may be asking, well, I'm still not entirely sure. I'm on the fence of which route to go. Now, I'll say this. If you want my advice, I would say start with asking yourself, is there a particular song in mind I want to learn? Do I just want to be a general pianist and know everything there is to know about piano and be able to put some sheet music in front of me and be able to play this classical piece? Or am I the type of person who just wants to play, one song and be done for a wedding? So all of that makes a difference. So if you're the type of person who is looking long-term, you want to be just a general good pianist, I would say maybe start with a couple lessons. Dip your feet in the water, see how their curriculum is, and see if that ties into what you're wanting to learn. I was never really interested into learning a whole bunch of classical music, and if I was, I would have focused a lot more on learning how to appropriately read the sheet music as I played the piano. But to me, it felt a little difficult to learn 2 languages at once, for lack of a better term, because learning the sheet music and tying it in with the piano was just too much for my brain to understand at the time. And I found it a much better route to pick a song that I liked, that I wanted to play, that I was inspired by, and just learn that, because that sparked my passion for piano. So if you are that type of person and you're like me, or you're like, I really, really want to play, I really want to do that and just whip it out at a party or whatever, like go on YouTube, type in, how to play so-and-so song and see what happens. See if you can learn it. I would say, don't go learn the hardest song in the world. You're going to get super discouraged, but pick a song that you're interested in and it'll become fun for you. I think you'll really develop a passion and a liking for the piano if you are learning songs that you enjoy. And you can learn any song you want for free on YouTube. So there's really no shortage there. Now, if you're the type of person who absolutely needs someone next to you to force you to play, or you need that commitment of once a week, or you're not going to practice, then do lessons, because honestly, I think that's better than just not playing at all or trying to squeeze it into your calendar when you're not, forcing yourself to give the time to play piano, but it's something you really want to do. Schedule a couple lessons, get them on the calendar, and then, in a couple months, say, you know what, I think I got the basics under my belt. Now I'm going to go the self-taught route and use the basics I learned from those first couple lessons to tie it into what I'm watching on YouTube. That's essentially what I did with everything. Is I did 2 years of lessons. I wouldn't say I retained a whole lot of information from those lessons, but I took what I knew from those and applied it to sight reading from YouTube videos and just matching up the keys and then really understanding the piano and how it works, how the sounds, melody, timing, all that stuff just came as I learned songs. So if that is something you want to do, I would say go that route. Now, if you do decide to go the self-taught route and you don't have a song in mind you want to learn, but you just want to learn piano, there's a lot of resources online that can show you where to start. And there's a lot of free courses on YouTube that will teach you everything from square zero all the way up. And there's a lot of online just piano courses in general. I have one called Hear and Play Piano if you're interested. We cover everything from how to understand the foundations of the piano to tying it into chords, scales, what the sustain pedal does, and just getting everything together so that you could develop an ear so you can play songs you hear on the radio just by listening to them. So if that's interested to you, you can, but if not, there's plenty of courses out there online that you can go at your own pace for. Plenty of YouTube videos that will walk you from square zero all the way up to everything you need to know to be able to play videos of songs you want to learn and learn from those. So that's definitely a good starting point. If I could just give you one piece of advice, learn chords. Chords are huge. If you learn every chord, I would say don't learn every chord all at once, but if you learn just, the basic chords of pop songs, it will give you access to a wide range of songs you can play, and it'll just make it a whole lot more fun that you'll be able to actually play songs people will recognize and that you've always loved. And so there's plenty of sites like Chordify where you can pull up the chords to that particular song, and if you know your chords, you should be able to play the entire song. So that is one route you can go if you're not sure really where to start and you want to go the self-taught route. So wanted to give my advice and guidance on that. All right, so today we went over the differences between taking lessons and teaching yourself. We went over some pros and cons of each one. We also talked a little bit about some resources you can use online, such as YouTube and Chordify, to go ahead and help if you are going the self-taught route. So I really hope this video helped. Please feel free to like, subscribe, and comment any questions you may have for me regarding this topic or any piano topic in general. I'm happy to answer everything. Or if you want me to make a video on something in particular, please let me know in the comments. So again, my name's Danny, and thank you guys so much for watching.